We knew they were wrong. They probably knew they were wrong. They just hoped we would never figure it out. Well, socialists and the left were wrong about COVID. They were as wrong as you can possibly be. And we will be living with the damage they caused for generations. Now they want forgiveness for their mistakes. In answer, as I heard it put once, hey, socialists, if you want forgiveness for COVID, you can ask your God for it. Since many of you are atheists, this probably isn't much comfort, but that's the best you're going to get. As COVID swept through the world over the last few years, socialists were literally dancing in the streets, seeing this as an opportunity to once and for all take the reins of control under the pretext of protecting us all. And unfortunately, it worked for a while, but one by one, like a house of cards, the socialist leftist narrative on COVID began to crumble. The biggest mistake they made, I think, was believing that the mind control experiment they are currently conducting on our children had absolutely no limits. They thought they could tell us to lock our kids in their houses and pretend to learn, sometimes for years at a time, and that we would just swallow it. Boy, did that not work out. Not only did their actions in the schools give us proof positive that they were putting the convenience of teachers' unions ahead of students' health, but in many cases, we literally saw with our own eyes what they were or were not doing during the normal school day. Many of us were horrified. So many that the public school system will probably never be the same. Thank goodness for small favors. There's a famous leftist saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. Well, they didn't. It just didn't quite go the way they expected. Here's a term that went out of favor quickly. The Great Reset. When was the last time you heard that one? At the height of the COVID insanity, socialists and the left believed that this horrible disease would give them an opportunity to remake the world with the forced equality ideal that they revere above all else. Above personal freedom, above the health and welfare of the people, above even increased prosperity for the communities they claim to serve. Even in the epicenter of modern socialist thought, even there, it's become clear that the socialist overreach on COVID is coming back to haunt them. Predictably, the CCP used personal information that it gathered to supposedly protect its people from COVID to manipulate, control, and punish them once the rest of the world had moved on. Even in China, that has stopped working. Even in China, that stopped working. The CCP is in full panic mode, trying to make it look as though they are still in control, while clearly caving into the demands of an unprecedented wave of protests that swept across the country. So socialists and the left want COVID amnesty. But like a belligerent child, they don't even understand what they're asking forgiveness for.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Homer, you don't even know why you're apologizing.
Yes, I do. Because I'm hungry. My clothes are smelly and I'm tired.
They think they're asking for amnesty for making mistakes that they claim were made without complete information and for the greater good. This is not what they did wrong. What they did wrong was to assume that they even had the right to impose these decisions by force on the rest of us. They did not. In restricting our personal liberties under threat of imprisonment, regardless of what they may or may not have believed about COVID, they were committing crimes, at least here in the United States, against the U.S. Constitution. There is no pandemic exclusion in the Constitution that allows the government to use violence to keep people from peaceably assembling. On a broader scale, socialists and leftists committed crimes against humanity that are going to cost many, many more lives. Not just more lives than they say that they saved. We now realize they basically saved none. But more lives even than COVID itself will have caused in the end. The real crime was in claiming what Hayek called the pretense of knowledge, which is the idea that anyone could know enough to engineer society successfully. Socialists are usually pretty good at covering up the disasters they cause, but by mismanaging COVID so badly, they created a kind of Venezuela of pandemics, a series of errors so deep and so broad, so obvious, that there can no longer be any question of the damage they did to all of us. I'm an American, so not necessarily speaking for the rest of the world, but I can tell you for sure, it will be a cold day in heck before we allow ourselves to be locked in our houses again. So socialists, I'll see your request for COVID amnesty and raise you a jail sentence. We will begin with the same sentence you were handing out to those you sought to punish and control, and we'll go from there.